Yes, people, what is going on? As you can see, that is your top three for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, won by Max Verstappen. However, just. Yes, people, welcome back to the channel. Your boy Peter on pole right here. We need to talk all things Emilia-Romagna. Yes, people, what a race it was. It actually picked up right at the end. And I'll tell you what, there's things to discuss. There's things to break down, chop down, and discuss, people. But there's your podium of the race. Yes, Max Verstappen winning the race, but Mr. Lando Norris less than a second behind him. I'm here to tell you, people, there is a title race in Formula One. Yes, you've heard it here first. You've heard it here first. Going into the weekend, people were not quite sure what kind of a race we were going to have in at Imola. The thing is, it was going to be whoever does well in qualifying will do well in the race. Yeah, 9 times out of 10. It's a very narrow circuit. It's not a circuit that normally gives you a lot of space or a lot of room to overtake. But the racing picked up after a while. It has to be said. It has to be said. And I think, you know what, hats off and credit, because you know what we finally got, people? Do you know what we finally got in 2024? We actually got a title race in Formula One. And I'll tell you what, the reason my background is of Max Verstappen and Lando Norris is because these two are going to have one hell of a season against each other throughout the rest of the Formula One season. Make sure you guys smash a like on the video and make sure you get your comments in, because I want to hear what you guys have to say about this Grand Prix here at Imola. It's been an emotional one. It's been a great one. 30 years, of course, since Ayrton Senna had passed away, so there was a lot of tributes there, led by Sebastian Vettel. The niece of Ayrton Senna was there as well, and I think it was his sister. I can't remember. Forgive me if I've got that wrong, if it's the daughter or something like that. But all sorts was going on over the weekend. And listen, third place man right there, Charles Leclerc. Let's not sleep on him, because he actually got on the podium, and that's Ferrari's first podium at Imola since the days of Michael Schumacher. Unbelievable scenes, Jeff. And yeah, we need to discuss. Let's talk about it. I mean, look, Red Bull, you know, had a mixed weekend because, of course, you know, Max Verstappen got on pole and won the race. So credit to Max Verstappen in terms of that weekend. Wasn't an easy weekend. Had a few hurdles to overcome, and he did overcome them. But then on the other side, Mr. Sergio Perez not having the greatest day ever. He had a hard weekend. He had a tough weekend. He finished, I think, half a second behind Max Verstappen in qualifying, and then in the race, it just was not happening. There were moments he'd gone wide, and then after that, drivers were just eating him up one after the other. He did not have the greatest weekend, it must be said. Definitely a weekend to forget. But Max Verstappen wins his third Imola Grand Prix, or Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, in a row. 3 consecutive wins in a row. So credit to Max Verstappen on that one there. It's not an easy feat. That is something that not many would have done so. Not many would have done so in Formula One. You look at the people like Ayrton Senna, you look at the people like Michael Schumacher, you know, Prost. You're in that kind of company. So fair play to Max Verstappen for making it 3 consecutive race wins in a row at Imola. But a very close battle with Mr. Lando Norris. Like I said, there's a title race right here. There's a title race right here. And I say this because not even just with Lando Norris per se, if Ferrari do get their act together, they could be well assured that they could be in and amongst this conversation. Pre-race, literally on the race day, I think Zach Brown, you know, they asked him, you know, what are your thoughts on Lando Norris winning the race? What are your chances with Lando Norris and Piastri, who, you know, you want to talk about hard luck again with Oscar Piastri. It's one thing after another with that man, isn't it? He did so well to get on the front row of that grid, and I think he could smell a victory. He felt good. He felt comfortable in that car, but of course, impeding Max Verstappen, Kevin Magnussen in quali cost him 3 places, and those places are vital in a race, in a track like Imola, for sure. You can't just afford to lose places like that. But when Zach was asked about McLaren's chances, he said, look, there's about 5 cars that could win this race today. Luckily, we're 2 of them. You know, he said, like, any of the top 5 could win this race. And, you know, he was including Charles Leclerc. He was including Carlos Sainz. You know, there was a proper battle that we looked. And when the race started, to be fair, Norris, I thought, got a good start as well as Max, but it just seemed, I think Karun Chandok even mentioned that in the second phase of the start, let's say before you get into turn one, the acceleration of Max Verstappen is kind of what went away. So Lando Norris couldn't necessarily capitalize. And at some points in the race, Lando Norris was actually losing time. Leclerc was getting much, much closer lap by lap. And then all of a sudden, it was like out of nowhere. All of a sudden, I don't know what it is about McLaren and these hard tires. I just put in my notes here. I don't know what it is about McLaren and these hard tires, but it always feels like it's the wrong decision to go on the hard. And then all of a sudden, the tires come back and it works. It looks like being the best tire to be on. People like McLaren obviously know what they are doing. But the point I was making is that, look, there is different pieces and puzzles, or pieces of the puzzle, let's say, in this championship that anybody could win this title this season. Like, really and truly, like, if we really, the gap to Red Bull is not as far as it used to be. Definitely not. To the point where if Max is having to defend and sort of really have to earn the race victory. Not that he's never earned it, don't get me wrong, but as in, like, now his race win was in jeopardy. We've not really seen that since probably the days of Hamilton versus Verstappen. And even then, Hamilton versus Verstappen, it was more so Verstappen being the underdog here, being the challenger, as opposed to being the man that's in front. Whereas right now, since he's been in front, nobody's really challenged him, really and truly. But I have a feeling we might be seeing something here. So, credit to Max Verstappen for winning, for being your race winner. Like I said, he just about won it. He just about won it, indeed. But yeah, let's talk about the podium. Lando Norris, again, as I said, the tires came to him. And how many more laps did he need, do you reckon? Let me know in the comments section. How many laps do you think he needed to overtake Max Verstappen? Because he was mighty close. He was unbelievably close in terms of chasing Max Verstappen and actually, getting the race win. Because I honestly, watching it, I was just like, this can't be happening. Because on one moment, second place was in jeopardy. Charles Leclerc was really close onto him. And then you thought, you know what? You take the second place now. See you later. Go home, pack your bags. Off to Monaco we go. But then, all of a sudden, it was like a blink of an eye when Norris, all of a sudden, the charge was on. The tires were going for Max Verstappen. He couldn't quite understand or work out what the heck's going on. All of a sudden, on the contrary, for McLaren, the tires were coming to Lando Norris, and all of a sudden, boom, right in the rearview mirror of Max Verstappen. So fair play, fair play to Lando Norris to keep that pressure on, especially coming off the hills and the highs of Miami. And Norris was not happy, was he? He was like, I was so close, I was so close to getting this man. Because he knew Max was in danger, and Max knows it too. So fair play. And Charles Leclerc, listen, Ferrari were to be bringing upgrades, and I don't know what you guys think, but they kind of flattered to deceive, in my opinion, when they came to the race weekend, because Sainz wasn't happy. Leclerc wasn't that happy. He was okay, but it wasn't. We thought Ferrari could challenge the race win here. And it had been their home, their second home, if you will. He could have easily had a better race weekend. But as I said, Leclerc is the first Ferrari man to be on the podium at Imola since the days of Michael Schumacher. So we're going back a long time. Don't get me wrong, we've not had the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix like every year since Schumacher last drove for Ferrari. Don't get it twisted. But at the same time, it's still something, It's still something. And Carlos Sainz wasn't necessarily happy himself, but Leclerc, I think, is sort of thinking, you know what, we'll take it. There's things to improve, but we'll take that for sure. But yeah, and you know what, for me as well, my driver of the day, I have to give it to Max Verstappen, because there was jeopardy this race weekend for the first time in what feels like a while, where Max is going toe-to-toe with other drivers for pole position. That was one thing. A lot of people, including myself, had Charles Leclerc on pole this race weekend. And, your Leclercs, your Norris, your Piastris, they were all there in the mix fighting for that pole position. And Max Verstappen still pulled it out. And he didn't find it easy. And what I do like, why I'm giving him the credit, is simply because he had to really, really work hard. He pulled it out of the bag. What would he be like when he's under pressure finally in Formula One, okay? Because it feels like he's never been under pressure. Of course he has been, but what could he do this time round had he had somebody right on his tail, right on his neck, and how would he drive? And he did phenomenally well in qualifying, and then again in the race, which seemed like, you know, he got off to an important start. I did see at the end of the formation lap, the car was slightly tilted to the right because of it, you know, second place kind of had the better line than first place, which I always find is a bit interesting. Now, whether, you know, you've earned yourself a pole position, and yet you might have the deficit of being P1 on a grid because turn 1 is actually on the outside for you. So yeah, it was quite an interesting drive, and at the end of the day, Max still managed to hold off Lando Norris. Now, if Norris did manage to pip him in the end, you know, different story, different conversation. But for the pure fact that under all things, you know, the fight and the way he battled against Lando Norris, for example, on the race weekend, is why I give him driver of the day, driver of the weekend. Yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below on what your drivers of the weekend were. Let's get your comments as well. Let's talk about what you guys have to say on this situation. What am I doing here? I don't even know why. Why is that gone there? Let's go over there. Let's get your comment section in right now. Make sure you smash a like if you like Formula One content like this, where we let you have your say as well on the situation. Let's start off with Adam Heddle. What's going on? Hope you are good. Hi, Peter. Can't wait for the rest of the season. Based off yesterday, won't be able to watch the stream, but we'll watch later after. But we'll catch you on McLaren Fan TV this week. Yes, McLaren Fan TV will be live on Tuesday, UK time at 7 p.m. Every single Tuesday after a race weekend. There will be lots to discuss, especially from a McLaren perspective. But yeah, absolutely. The season is going to be very, very interesting based on what we saw yesterday. Absolutely. The season is here. It's alive, people. It's time to get excited, okay? Right? The football season is finishing, if not finished in most cases, right? Your full attention now can stay right here in Formula One. And there is something to be excited about. We have got a Grand Prix on our hands. We've got a season on our hands. And listen, next weekend is the Monaco Grand Prix. Guys, if we thought qualifying this weekend was great or important, next week, I cannot wait. It will be even better. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the season. Absolutely, Adam. 100%. And welcome back to the video if you are watching right now. Hello, Peter says, oh, Drea, big up yourself, Drea. Says, hello, Peter. It was great. It was a great end to the race. Lando and Oscar were great, and the team overall too, besides the impeding incident, of course. Yeah, McLaren, I mean, it was one of those where McLaren actually, for once this weekend, probably ruined something in their own hands. You know, sometimes we might criticize McLaren's weekend because things outside of their control happened. We're usually blaming like a Carlos Sainz. We're blaming a turn 1 incident. We're blaming strategy. We're blaming whatever sometimes. But this time around, you just felt like, you know, damn, you know, if only Kevin Magnussen wasn't there, if only Oscar wasn't there, you know, Oscar really would have been so interesting to see what else Oscar could do. But my God, he was giving the Ferraris a hard time. And you know, even Sainz on the radio was saying, look, the McLaren's quick. And yeah, he caused a lot of problems. Lando Norris, you know, literally continuing where he left off in Miami, where he was still impressive, still very good. You know, qualified P3, of course, was given the P2 after Oscar's penalty. But again, like, he was good value for money in second. And even though there were times where it looked like it was in jeopardy, he actually managed to solve the rest of the situation. And credit to him, like, we love to see that. So big up to Lando Norris, big up to the McLaren boys. We'll be going more in depth with the McLaren talk tomorrow on McLaren Fan TV. Make sure you follow at McLaren Fan TV on Twitter, X, as well as on YouTube. We'll be live on YouTube tomorrow. TJD, what's going on? Credit to Max on that one. Yeah, I think a lot of the other would have cracked under pressure from Lando being behind. Yeah, a lot of drivers would have cracked under pressure for sure. It is a credit to Max. You have to give him his props. I mean, this is somebody. What I find interesting though, you know, like how he did the endurance racing or whatever it was over the weekend, over the course of the night, and it was a bit like, okay, you know, anyone could do what they want. When you're an adult, you do as you want, do as you please, okay. But at the same time, it was a bit like, surely, like on a race weekend, like that's just not wisdom, is it? Like we have to use some wisdom. So to see him do that, and I just wondered, did that have a little bit of an effect? Who knows? Definitely would have been brought into question had Max not won the race. Definitely would have been brought into question on his extracurricular outside of a race weekend. But yeah, credit to Max, because a lot of drivers would have cracked under that pressure, but he kept it on. I mean, you know, they were saying they were doing quality lap times towards the end. Both Max Norris, Max Norris, Max Norris. They were constantly doing lap times towards the end. And it was just great to watch. It was a bit of a slow burner of a Grand Prix, wasn't it? Because the real action probably was the Science Oscar Piastri area. But then it kind of, you know, we kind of got the front two fighting a lot more towards the end of the race. But yeah, definitely credit to Max. Who wants to groove? What's going on? I hope you're good and well. Says Oscar is building himself a ton of character with all that has happened to my guy. Yeah, Oscar is learning, man. That's a man who is learning. You know, he would have, of course, learned as a rookie last season, but this season he's learning the hard graphs, if you will, and it will only make him better. Honestly, I have full faith and confidence in Oscar Piastri. I think he's a beast. I'm sorry, he's an absolute beast. Drea says Max is insanely good. Nobody can deny that. I don't think anyone other than him can get the driver championship, to be honest. The gap is already too big. Maybe the constructors because of Perez. What's funny is the constructors last season, you know, the constructors could have been won by Max himself, you know, if it didn't even include Sergio Perez. You're right. Max's level's above, don't get me wrong. And he's got a car that's out of this world. It does heap more pressure on like a Sergio Perez, because you wonder what is going on with him. Why can't he be producing the same way Max Verstappen does on the race weekend, or even close? Like he's not like comfortably P2. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, Max is insanely good. You're not wrong about that at all. And yeah, if anyone can deny that, then you know, they're just Max haters at the end of the day. So, but we have to wait and see. Let's see what Max is like with pressure constant, hopefully constant over the course of the season, because Formula One can change quickly. I mean, I was looking at the Aston Martin over the weekend thinking, this time last year, this team was like the number 2. They were the ones that were going to challenge Red Bull, right? And now it just feels like they've become that not midfield team. That's probably harsh, but like they're swinging with Mercedes, and even then, you know, Mercedes, yeah, less said about them the better. But yeah, the Aston Martin just hasn't at least sustained where they are. Never mind, you know, getting closer and closer. They haven't even done that yet. TJD says, I mean, he himself and the team said one more lap. So I think one more lap was all that Mr. Lando Norris needed. Yeah, I heard them say one more lap. I just think maybe 2 or 3 because you can't underestimate what defending Max can do. You know, Max can defend. So, you know, if the gap was closer, it gives obviously Norris a much bigger opportunity, but it doesn't mean he would have nailed it or, you know, would have completed the mission. So it's interesting to hear. I like to hear you guys' your thoughts on this. This is excellent stuff. Keep leaving your comments in the comment section. We're hoping to be doing more live streams in terms of like race, when it's race related. We'll do more live streams, and then there'll be more videos, actual edited made videos on more topical subjects in Formula One. Drea says maybe it would have been possible, maybe, but overtaking is very, very difficult. Either way, it was a great fight from Lando. He pushed like crazy and risked it all. Yeah, even that bit where he'd almost gone into the gravel, and you thought, oh god, he's gonna cost second place here. But you could see these were 2 drivers pushing it to the limit, and that's what we want to see. We want to see drivers pushing it to the limit. That's what we want to have. That's what we want to see here. So I'm all for these drivers doing their thing, doing this. Giving us a fight, giving us a title race, giving us something, not even a title race, but just race to race weekends. I get some action, I get something to feel about. Definitely. Drea says a fight between Max, Charles, Lando, and Oscar maybe would have been really fun, or will be. It can change every track. Nothing we can really predict. Yeah, that's the thing. You got to be cautious, you know, every race weekend, sorry. of what can, if this happened now, then what does that mean? What can, does that mean that we can now do this? Is it mean now we expect this or expect that? And then next weekend, bang, off goes Max Verstappen, 30 seconds, race win and done. And we're back to square one. It could easily happen. It could certainly easily happen. TJD says, is it just me, or does it also seem like Max knows Lando's caliber and skill to the extent that it makes him a bit more nervous than when Charles battled him in 2022, based off radio and interviews? I think that's a good question. I think Max does feel, the thing is, it's about the car. I don't necessarily think it's the driver per se. I have a feeling, TJD, that Max respects McLaren's progression more so than Ferrari's. Ferrari's title challenge in 2022 should have been something, and it would have been something. But I don't know about you. The reputation of Ferrari is there. It's there. It's there to be seen. Like we know what this team is capable of doing, both good and bad. And I just wonder, like, had I think Max that season in 2022, what was his first race win? Was it Australia? I'm trying to remember, like, how it weren't early doors. I mean, I remember the Ferraris were like 1 and 2, and it was living, they were living nice. It was all well and good. But you know what? I think, and I think as well, there's a closer relationship between the two, between Max and Lando over, say, Max and Charles. But yeah, I'm not too sure. Drea has a take on it though. It's not just you, to be honest. I think he has great respect for Lando. They know each other very, very well, and I think these two are generally the most consistent drivers in the last years. And that's the other thing as well. Leclerc is not consistent enough. He's just not. Nobody can say that about, let's say, Lando. And when Lando hasn't been up there in terms of like the points or the positions or whatever the case may be, everybody looked at the car. They look at the car more than they look at the driver. But with Ferrari and Leclerc's case, I think they look at the driver more than they look at the car, because the car's there, like it's thereabouts. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like with the Ferraris, if the leadership is right, then they'll be fine. Yeah, not too sure. Alex says, hello, Peter. I hope you're doing well, Alex. Faster in 10 out of 63 laps, and people say we're fastest. Ridiculous. But Max being perfect while full pushing for so many laps is crazy. One track limit and the papaya was on top. Yes, because Max Verstappen had 3 track limits, didn't he? He had like 3 warnings or whatever it was, or 3 track violations. And I was thinking, okay, this is being pushed. This is what it looks like. And Lando Norris, McLaren, and the gang, they got to stay on top of Max Verstappen. They've got to, because they can really squeeze. We need to see what Max is like under pressure. We need to know what is actually going on when Max Verstappen is under the cosh. We need to see that. That we need to see. But yeah, overall, man, it was a great Grand Prix weekend, I must say. It was just good to be back at Imola. And I think, yeah, I don't know. I just genuinely think like there's a lot to be sort of hopeful about. I'll say that much. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at the driver standings at the moment, and you have a look at it right there, people. We've got Max Verstappen in first place with 161 points. Leclerc P2 now with 113. Perez 107. Lando Norris 101, and Carlos Sainz there as well. If I scroll down a piece, you've got Oscar Piastri right there as well, ahead of the 2 Mercedes there. Russell 44 points, nicking Hamilton's number there, and Hamilton on 35. Alonso 33 points, Tsunoda 15. Tsunoda's having an incredible season, guys. I must admit, he's doing phenomenally well, and credit to him for where he finished as well, because he nicked the point at the end. He got ahead of Hulkenberg. He got ahead of both of the Haas drivers. He finished ahead of Danny Ricciardo, and so credit to him. Like, we have to. It's almost like when he was threatened about his driver's seat. It was almost like it rubbed him the wrong way. It was like, I'm not standing for this. And fair play to him. The guy went and went about his business. There, which I love to see. If we look at the Constructors Championship, You got 268 for Red Bull. You got 212 for Ferrari, 154 for McLaren, 79 for Mercedes. Aston Martin there with 44. RBs on 20. Haas 7. Alpine with the 1 point. Williams and Kick Sauber yet to get on the scoreboard. I mean, the constructors could be interesting. Who's finishing where? It could be very, very tight. I look at, you're looking at this, the second place positions is going to be incredibly tight. But, look at Ferrari are not that far off Red Bull as well. If they could just get it together, you know what I mean? Get some consistency together, then my goodness, it's like, come on, The Oracle says that the P2 in the championship is on. That's for McLaren you're talking about there. It is definitely on. We cannot deny that. Also, going to say, I know this ain't McLaren Fan TV, but I need to ask: is it just me, or that gets the feeling that Lando has gapped Oscar somewhat in terms of race pace? So Oscar got the new upgrades, the full upgrade rather, this race weekend. I need a bit more time on that, Alex. I haven't got a definitive answer just yet. I don't think it's the case as such, not just yet. But there's room. There's room. P2, listen, both championships is what he's saying. Norris for P2 in the drivers and McLaren for P2 in the constructors. Why the flip not? Drea says track limits looks weird. It seemed to me Lando was off a few times, but we didn't hear any warnings. Yeah, I thought that as well. But that's the thing, like you go off track a little bit, you're gonna be jeopardized lap time wise anyway. What is the point of the track limit? Honestly. Dre also says Yuki is better than I expected him to be. He stepped up after the first 2 seasons. I thought he is done. Fair play. Yeah, I was a fan of Yuki Tsunoda when he jumped into the scene. I was excited. I was invested in the Yuki coin. And then for whatever reason, it just did not work out for him. It wasn't happening. But something's changed in him, I think. Whether it's the preseason, whether it's whether it's just the reality, he's got older, he's got more maturer, and he's probably just thinking, no, I need to knuckle down here and actually do something, and actually do something this season. That's what I think has probably happened. So fair play to Mr. Yuki Tsunoda. We will do a video on the preview to the Monaco Grand Prix. If you were to rate the race weekend out of 10, talk to me. What do you reckon? What do you guys reckon out of 10? If I'm going to rate the race, I think I'm going to give it like a 7 out of 10, It wasn't boring, in fairness. It wasn't boring, even though, we had the same pole. We had Max on pole. We had Max win the race. It weren't boring, though. I felt like it was a pretty decent showing of a Formula One Grand Prix. But the reason I'm also very excited and happy, these two here, and I think that's, if Ferrari can get in this conversation, if they want to, they can. But these two here, at least, they are doing a phenomenal job, and we could look at this in the future. We could get excited. We could literally get excited ahead of this, and then we'll have to wait and see. Dre says Oscar was okay. He cooked his tires too fast in the second stint, though. Pushed way too hard at the beginning. Like Leclerc, they were constantly faster than Lando at the end, 9 and 14 seconds to gap. 9 and 14 seconds to the gap. Yeah, so there was a period where even Lando was asking the question, like, yo, dude, these guys are faster than me. Like, what's going on? I'm pushing my hardest. And then afterwards, it was like, yeah, when you cook those tires, they're going to leave you. And Lando, I guess, was saying he pushed his hardest, but I think as well, very cleverly as well, managed to be able to keep life in the tires, which was very, very good. So credit to Lando Norris at the end of the day. Oscar with some learning to do in that front. But he's a rookie, and he's not a rookie, sorry. In his second season, he will be learning a lot more over the course of the season. We head to the Monaco Grand Prix next, where it's going to be quite an interesting battle. It's been fun here in Emilia-Romagna. Thankfully, we're back there because obviously we missed last season in there. And we're now in that Europe stint of the Formula One calendar. And it's going to be fun. Make sure, guys, you do join me tomorrow live. Yeah, live, as it says on the bottom on the ticker. McLaren Fan TV, that YouTube channel, to discuss all things McLaren, okay, and all things Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Until next time, guys, we will see you later. Videos will be out this week as well, and we'll be discussing and previewing Monaco. Until next time, lights